Part 8. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 71. Shen Yuanqing has been in the sacred pavilion all year round. It was a black temple, very closed, with no light at all, and almost no windows. Inside, it was completely shrouded in shadows. Looking at this gloomy place, seeing that Juxian's face was also extremely serious, Zhang Zizai and the other three also had a solemn expression and followed Juxian into it. Zhang Zizai remembered that it seemed that the priest and Ran thought that his identity was sensitive, and that Shen Yuanqing and others might not let him enter the sacrificial temple. Tat. The holy pavilion was very empty, and the footsteps were responded to and kept echoing. The further you go inside, the darker it gets. At the end of the hall, Zhang Zizai looked up and saw a person in the depths, sitting cross-legged on the ground, surrounded by endless darkness, as if being sucked into his body. A man with a grey robe and long hair looked like a grey vortex, making people lose their souls. He lowered his head and couldn't see his face clearly. From the outline, he should be a little feminine. His grey robe was messy and wide, and his invisible eyes were faintly filled with the breath of death. Juxian stood still in front of him. The man slowly raised his head, and Zhang Zizai finally saw his eyes, which were grey, blank, and lifeless, even like a blind man. Perhaps he was blind, because Zhang Zizai could not see any changes in his eyes. But it is certain that this person is definitely a dangerous person. After all, Shen Yuanqing can almost be said to be the highest-ranking person in the sacrifice temple, below the god servant. Juxian looked at him and said, "Brother, these are my 3 new disciples. Give me 3 sacrifice tokens." "Brother?" Zhang Zizai was shocked. This man is Juxian's brother? She actually has a brother? He really hasn't heard of it? What he has a little impression in his mind is that Shen Yuanqing of the sacrifice temple seems to be a more mysterious person and rarely appears. Juxian seemed a little strange when facing him. Her expression was very serious, and under the seriousness, there may be many mixed emotions. There was no movement on Shen Yuanqing's face. He stretched out his hand, and 3 white tokens flew from a distance and landed in his hand. His eyes were indeed motionless, as if he was blind. He sent the 3 tokens to Juxian, and suddenly, he withdrew his hand and did not let Juxian get them. "Zhang Yunting's son," he said with a deep tone, turning his face to the side. "That's right." Juxian gritted his teeth and said, "I have greeted the master." "Okay." Shen Yuanqing opened his palm and smoothly placed the 3 tokens in Juxian's hand. Juxian put away the tokens, as if he didn't want to stay for a moment, and directly winked at Zhang Zizai and walked back together. Zhang Zizai took a last look at the man, who was shrouded in darkness, motionless, as if dead. Zhang Zizai. Unexpectedly, he knew his name. When he was about to walk out, he actually called him. Zhang Zizai looked back at him. "My name is Jushan." He suddenly opened his mouth and smiled slightly, and that smile was a little weird. "Hello, Shenjia Yuanqing." Zhang Zizai bowed his hands, and just as he finished speaking, Juxian had already pulled him out. "Don't come here again, don't talk to him," Juxian said very seriously just after coming out. She was rarely so serious. "Why?" Zhang Zizai was a little confused. "Aren't they brother and sister? Looking at their appearance, they are actually a little similar. Don't ask why. Understand? Many people have secrets, and Zhang Zizai has them too, so he can understand. This Shenjia Yuanqing Jushen is so strange, just don't get involved in the future." After leaving the holy pavilion for a distance, Juxian took out the 3 tokens and said, "This is the identity symbol of the disciples of the sacrifice temple. It is forged with the special spiritual or crying bloodstone and has totem patterns drawn on it. You drip blood into it, and the totem patterns will record your own unique blood. After recording, if the token is stained with other people's blood, it will break immediately. Only your own blood can be absorbed. In the future, if someone needs you to prove your identity, just drip your own blood into it to prove that you are the owner of the token. It turns out that there are such special items. Zhang Zizai dripped a little blood, then put away the identity certificate. After dripping blood, he became a formal disciple of the sacrifice temple. Why don't you call me Master Priest? Juxian swept away the haze from the holy pavilion and was very happy. She was smart and knew that Zhang Zizai and the other two had a bright future. Master Priest, the three of them greeted him hurriedly. After all, they would have a backer in the future in Yanlongxiu. If someone bullies you, come to me. This priest is extremely protective of his shortcomings. No matter who they are, I will beat them up, Juxian said domineeringly. This is of course very good. It can be seen that she is a devil-like figure in this temple. With her protection, everything will be fine. Now I will take you to Juxian Pavilion to meet other priests. Below the priests, all are disciples of the temple, but they are divided into priests and priests. For example, Zhang Zizai and others who have just come in are all priests. Later, when the realm, strength, contribution, age, and seniority are all older, they will be evaluated by Yuan Qing and the priests, and they can be upgraded to priests. Priests, compared with priests, of course, can get more cultivation resources, such as spiritual mines, spiritual medicines, spiritual stones, as well as skills, battle tactics, and even evolution sources. Equivalent to high-level priests. The priests and disciples of Juxian are all in the Juxian Pavilion, which is her territory in the sacrifice temple. Every priest has such a territory. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. However, in order to distinguish them, the living and cultivation environments of priests and disciples are separate. Priests can come to the disciples, but disciples cannot enter the priest area unless they are led by someone. Of course, those priests are old-timers in the sacrifice temple, busy with daily practice and worship. Most of them will be sent to other cities in the dynasty to promote sacrifices and lead the people for the sacrifice temple, so there are generally fewer priests left in the sacrifice temple. There is a priest in the sacrifice temple in the king city of Dajiang, but he is lazy and Zhang Zizai rarely sees him. The current Juxian Pavilion is basically full of young disciples. Now, Juxian brought 3 young, freshly baked disciples to the Juxian Pavilion. The so-called Juxian Pavilion is a large courtyard. In the middle is a huge square surrounded by hundreds of houses. It is not luxurious as a whole, and it is not as luxurious as the buildings in Qingjiang City, but it is simple and has a special sense of intimacy. Juxian just came back, and it seemed that she had switched modes in an instant, from a delicate beauty to a ferocious demon king. "Get out!" she shouted. Suddenly, the entire Juxian Pavilion was shaken, and bursts of strange screams were heard. Young people of all shapes and sizes crawled and rolled out of their rooms, and actually lined up in front of Juxian, from tallest to shortest, in 5 rows, standing straight in an instant, and aligned left and right. Count. 1, 2. Those boys and girls, starting from the tallest, counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last one counted 52. Zhang Zizai widened his eyes, looking at these boys and girls trembling in front of Juxian. He felt that the days ahead would not be easy. Moreover, what the hell is this queuing and counting? I haven't heard that the temple should be like this. Raise your heads. At Juxian's command, they raised their heads one by one, but no one dared to stare at her. From their trembling expressions, Zhang Zizai seemed to think that he was looking for death by fighting Juxian. Even Ruo Xiaoyu stuck out her tongue and wanted to say in Zhang Zizai's ear, "Sister-in-law is so fierce." But she didn't dare to say it. "Master Priest!" The priests shouted respectfully. Juxian was very satisfied, pointing at Zhang Zizai and the 3 of them, and said, "Meet 3 new friends, This one, Zhang Zizai, this one, Lu Dingxing, and this little beauty Ruo Xiaoyu. They are all from the great Zhongqing city. You know their identities. In the future, get along casually. They didn't dare to look at Juxian, so they could only look at Zhang Zizai and the three of them. Most of the eyes were on Zhang Zizai, the son of the world-famous Zilan king. Everyone's eyes were a little different. After all, Zhang Zizai's deeds were still being spread in Yanlongxiu. What was more turbulent in the past was the affairs of his father and his brother. Now, his brother is still in Taiyi prison in Yanlongxiu. Hello everyone, please take care of me and give me more advice in the future. After all, they will all be partners in the future. He is not arrogant and domineering as the legend says, but very polite. I am here, they can't let go. They will practice here in the future. If there are any special things that can't be solved, they can go there to find me. She pointed to the largest palace in the Juxian pavilion. That is her boudoir, the most beautiful building here. But I'm usually not here. She was naughty again. There are many empty rooms, just pick one. Remember to get along with your classmates. Of course, it doesn't matter if you don't get along. If you see someone you don't like, beat him up. Don't be polite to me. Juxian said a lot of things in Zhang Zizai's ear. This made Zhang Zizai confused. Is there such a priest? As for the daily arrangements of the temple, precautions, how to be a good priest, and how to obtain martial arts resources, the classics in the room are all recorded in detail. Remember to read them. Sister is still busy, let's go. Before Zhang Zizai could react, she disappeared like a gust of wind. Ah! When she left, the boys immediately became slack and almost fell to the ground. Stand up straight. Her voice suddenly came from somewhere, and the boys and girls were frightened and stood straighter than the fire source gun in Zhang Zizai's hand. He had a hunch that this priest life should be very interesting. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 72. After waiting for a long time, the Juxian pavilion's priests were relieved when they were sure that the 9 immortals were gone. Only then could their eyes boldly fall on Zhang Zizai and the others. 52 people in total. Most of them dispersed without even saying hello and went back to do their own business. There are a small number of people whose eyes flicker, containing curiosity and doubt. There is also disgust. In my hometown, 100,000 people were killed or injured. My parents are still missing. As his son, he actually has the nerve to come to the temple to sacrifice. Vaguely, I heard a young man whispering with hatred to the people next to him, and then left. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow diamondsuit. When you go out, you have to do everything on your own. Perhaps it was because of Zhang Zizai's special status. As a new priest, there were not many people who would come up to talk to them. He was preparing to find 3 nearby rooms and settle in first. Unexpectedly, a young man came directly in front of them. The young man was slender and had very fair skin. He was wearing messy clothes and his hair looked like it hadn't been taken care of for a long time. It was a mess, like a bird's nest. However, his face was very warm and his smile looked straightforward. Hello, my name is Baishan Jin. I have been here for 2 years. I am now 15 years old. The young man announced his name. Zhang Zizai could roughly tell that he was not yet at the mysterious vein realm, but it was obvious that he was at the 9th level of the martial life realm. This kind of talent is also quite top-notch. I'm so envious of King Zilan's son. His birth is really noble. I can't do it. My parents are both merchants in Yanlong ruins, making a little money. I didn't expect to cultivate a genius like me. I'm here to talk to you. You won't dislike me, right? Before Zhang Zizai and the others spoke, Baishan Jin started chattering a lot. He spoke very fast, and it felt like he could say several words in an instant. Born as a commoner, he was at the 9th level of the martial arts realm at the age of 15. He was indeed a genius. It was obviously not easy to reach such a state today. Nice to meet you, Zhang Zizai nodded. As long as you don't dislike it, I heard that you made that image talisman really wonderful, haha, it's very shameless like ours. Bai Shenjin smiled heartily. Why don't you wash your hair? It looks terrible. Ruo Xiaoyu rolled her eyes at him, her focus was really. Bai Shenjin was stunned for a moment, then he laughed dumbly and said, little girl, what do you know? This is the charming charm of this handsome man. Then there was a lot of chirping again. Starting from the history of his hairstyle, how many girls he has fascinated, and his childhood deeds. What a chatterbox. Let's go around and pick 3 good rooms for you. The priest said that from now on we will all be classmates and share the same window, so it will be like having slept together. Ah no, it is almost like carrying a gun together. Yes, even the spear in your hand can be carried by me. This guy didn't understand what Juxian meant at all, and he copied her quotes. With a little help from Bai Shenjin, Zhang Zizai and the others can quickly integrate into this place. However, when Bai Shenjin was talking to them, the others stayed far away, probably because they were afraid that Zhang Zizai's special status would affect their future. Among the crowd over there was a young man in green clothes who said to him, I don't know what the priest thinks, but he actually recruited such a person into our 9 Immortals pavilion. After all, he came in through the Kylan Society. Then don't take the initiative to bring him to us. If others know that we spend time with him day and night, it will definitely affect our future. Yes, after all, their family is now the enemy of the dynasty. The royal family probably allowed the Kylan royal family to retain him because of their historical contributions, and he is still alive. They talked without worrying whether Zhang Zizai could hear them. This was the common thought of many people in the entire Yanlong dynasty, so Zhang Zizai had no reaction. The one who said bad things about you is called Dongyang Sheng. He is the son of the 2nd patriarch of the Qingluan clan. He is very arrogant. He only reached the 1st level of the Xuanmei realm at the age of 17. In fact, there is nothing to be proud of. I will reach the Xuanmei realm this year. Bai Shenjin pointed at the young man in green. It turned out to be a member of the Qingluan clan. Dongyang Jing is also from the Qingluan clan, but as the daughter of the clan leader, her status is obviously higher. At this time, Dongyang Sheng also looked over. He squinted at Zhang Zizai with cold eyes. It seems that many people are not willing to work with you about your father's matter. Bai Shenjin seemed to have just realized this problem. Then you are being isolated by talking to us, Zhang Zizai asked. Bai Shenjin chuckled and said, to be honest, because I am a commoner, they say that my parents are mortal insects, and they don't usually get along with each other. Also, I have actually seen your father's mighty and domineering appearance before, which is quite charming. Feng, I still have a little admiration in my heart, haha, don't laugh at me. Do you believe what happened at Huangtiangwan? Bai Shenjin was startled. He waved his hand and said, I'm just a small person. I don't understand this big thing. But for me, I mainly rely on my mood and intuition when doing things. My intuition tells me that you are attractive people. Everything else, it doesn't matter. Come on, be direct, good guy. Zhang Zizai patted his shoulder and said, if you have the courage to talk to us at a time like this, we will be friends from now on. You are indispensable for us to be good and drink well. Ah. It's so direct, but I don't want to be a buddy. What should I do if I want your favor? Bai Shenjin said exaggeratedly. Okay, no problem. Chop your little brother up first, and he will favor you. Zhang Zizai smirked. Then forget it, my damn dad still expects me to carry on his family lineage. Bai Shenjin trembled. It is easy for straightforward people to communicate. Zhang Zizai thinks that this young man named Bai Shenjin is very good. When you go to a new place, you always need new friends. A commoner boy who grew up in a place like Yanlong Ruins. He was right next door to his room and found 3 rooms for Zhang Zizai and the 3 of them. If he wanted to talk in the future, he could hear them if he shouted loudly in the room. If Xiaoyu is a girl, the room is in the corner, protected by Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing outside. Although each room is not gorgeous, it is large enough to meet the various needs of cultivation. It is also quiet enough and has all the daily needs. Putting down his luggage, Bai Shenjin sat on the table and said proudly, "Come on, let brother Baishan see your totem. I'll show you my totem first. My totem is an earth-level totem. After you see it, don't feel inferior." After speaking, the totem appeared between his eyebrows, which seemed to be a big-headed bird bathed in flames. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 73. The so-called big-headed bird, if you look closely, should be a kind of parrot. Parrots can imitate human speech, and this Bai Shenjin is just like a parrot, chattering non-stop from beginning to end. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. Are you feeling inferior, kids? The Earth-level totem, the Wind and Fire Parrot totem, plus my 9th level strength in the martial life realm, is so handsome. He is so familiar, and he jumped up and down not long after meeting. Zhang Zizai and the others looked at each other and laughed. Then, Lu Dingxing showed his heaven-level totem Troll Panda totem. At the same time, he also showed the Troll Panda transformation. Damn! Heaven level, Bai Shenjin widened his eyes, fell off the table, and sat on the ground. Look at me, the guy who doesn't wash his hair. Ruo Xiaoyu also showed her latest thorny rose totem, with dense patterns, bursts of floral fragrance, and pink rose phantoms surrounding it. Damn! It's heavenly level again. Bai Shenjin knelt on the ground with tears in his eyes. What about you? Can't it be one of the 8 super totems? He looked at Zhang Zizai desperately. Zhang Zizai smiled and said, "That's not the case. I'm just a black dragon totem of the Xian level." "That's okay." He finally stood up, patted Zhang Zizai on the shoulder, and said, "Hey, we are both wanderers in the world, but I'm better than you, buddy. It's really hard for you to be with these 2 perverts." Zhang Zizai smiled and didn't say anything. If he knew that the power of his totem was absolutely comparable to the heavenly level, he would probably want to cry without tears. He looked at the 3 of them, clapped his hands, and suddenly laughed, saying, "I said, the priestess is so smart, how dare she recruit the priests that others dare not recruit? It turns out that you are geniuses at the same level as me. I am really smart. I chose to please you. Will I have everything I want in the future?" "Yes." Bai Shenjin laughed. "What are you laughing at? It's so noisy," someone downstairs cursed. "These guys want to keep a distance of 10,000 feet from you." Bai Shenjin shook his head and said, "I guess they are afraid that you will cause them trouble and criticism." He looked at Zhang Zizai and said, "This world is sometimes very realistic. In fact, I sympathize with you. You used to be high and mighty, but now it seems that everyone wants to step on you." Zhang Zizai picked up a copy of Sacrifice Disciple Rules on the table and began to read it. While flipping through it quickly, he said, "That depends on whether they can step on you." Domineering, coquettish enough, Bai Shenjin gave a thumbs up sincerely. "Go wash your hair." Ruo Xiaoyu was still tangled up in his messy hair that looked like a bird's nest. Bai Shenjin looked at her and couldn't help sighing. Alas, what a pity, such a beautiful girl doesn't even have the aesthetic taste of my avant-garde hairstyle. As for Lu Dingxing, he stood at the door and looked in the direction of Huangguo Gate. "By the way, General Zhongli, is he your father? Bai Shenjin suddenly remembered and looked at Lu Dingxing. Lu Dingxing turned around and nodded. Bai Shenjin pursed his lips, not knowing what to say. Young man, work hard. Finally, he patted Lu Dingxing on the shoulder and said. My father is a businessman and doesn't know anything, but he said that your father is a good man. In the Temple of Sacrifice, in a secret room. Juxian left in a hurry because she received an order to come here immediately. This secret room is as dark as the Holy Pavilion. As soon as he came in, Juxian met Anran. When Anran was about to talk to her, she passed him and sat down in one of the seats. This secret room is divided into two parts. There are dozens of seats below and a high platform above. There are 3 seats on the high platform. The 3 seats are different. There are patterns on the backrests. The one in the center is carved with the scorching sun, the moon on the left, and the star map on the right. There was no one on the high platform. There were more and more people below. They were basically middle-aged people over 40 years old. No one spoke. They took their seats and looked serious. Not long after, the secret room was almost full. Everyone's momentum and meaning were similar to Juxian. Obviously, everyone here was a priest of the temple. Except for those who had tasks outside, basically everyone was here. They were the core group of the temple. When everyone arrived and waited for about a quarter of an hour, an iron door behind the high platform opened, and 2 people walked out one after another. In front of her was a woman in a starry robe, with a veil on her face and long hair tied up very delicately. Her eyes were shining like the bright starry sky. Meet the God servant. When she came out, all the priests knelt on one knee. Take a seat, the woman waved her hand, and the priests stood up. This person was the highest existence in the Temple of Sacrifice, one of the 3 great God servant, the Star God servant. God servant is a person who can communicate with and worship ancient gods in legends. She sat on the chair on the right with a star map carved on it. Following her came a tall and thin man in a loose gray robe with dull eyes. At this time, he stood behind the Star God servant with his head down. At the position of Juxian, only a black shadow could be seen. He was Xuanhuan, Jushan. From then on, it seemed that all the people had arrived, and the other 2 God servants should not come. After sitting on the high seat, the Star God servant said in a cold voice, "Today, we are calling everyone together for the 6 prefectures grand meeting held every 5 years. The priests had expected this, and they all sat up straight with serious expressions. Juxian glanced at Jushan behind Xinjiao Shenqi, and quickly retracted his gaze. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Xinjiao Shenqi, continue to speak. 5 years ago, what happened to our performance in the 6 prefectures grand meeting? Everyone knows it. Xinjiao Shenqi swept his eyes over the crowd, and the dim secret room was like a sea of stars, shining with stars. If it weren't for Zhang Junjian, who won the first place, our overall score should have ranked 4th. In other words, if it weren't for Zhang Junjian last time, we would have been embarrassed. Her tone was cold, and the priests lowered their heads and dared not speak. Every priest needs to be responsible for this situation. She said the word responsible very seriously. The priests continued to bow their heads. Juxian also lowered his head and played with the hem of his skirt. The royal family has become increasingly powerful in the past 100 years, and has occupied a large space in our sacrifice temple. Especially in the past 10 years, when Longyan ruled, more talented people in the dynasty were more willing to go to the Holy Dragon Palace to directly serve the royal family and seek fame. Among the choices of young talents, the Sacrifice Temple is gradually not the first choice. Even the National Defense Palace, Xianbing Pavilion, Blue Sea Palace, etc. want to get a piece of the pie. The world is paying attention to the 6 prefectures grand event. Without Zhang Junjian this time, if the results are not good, how will the people of the world view the sacrifice temple? She slowly stood up, stood on the edge of the high platform, and looked at everyone. If we keep sinking like this, one day, there will be fewer young people who are eager to come here. Our influence will weaken, and eventually, other forces will even shake the foundation of our sacrifice temple. For example, let the people no longer serve the ancient gods, but only the imperial power. That will lead to the ancient gods abandoning the Yanlong dynasty, and the world will be returned to the source beasts. The consequences are so serious that the priests were terrified. Longyan is very ambitious. He doesn't believe in the ancient gods and is really stubborn. He wants to use the imperial power to erode the divine power. You should all know how important the 6 prefectures grand meeting is and how important the power of the younger generation is. The star god servant paced on the high platform and spoke. Every word suffocated the priests. If you want to reverse the decline, start with the 6 prefectures grand meeting. Everyone, report to me, who of the priests you guide can get the best results in the 6 prefectures grand meeting. Enran, start with you. Enran broke out in a cold sweat. He quickly stood up, took a long breath, and said, reply to the god servant, my priest Wansha, the son of the Black World clan, is in the 2nd level of the mysterious veins realm. There are also several Black World clan disciples, Wu Jin, Yu Han, and Zhao Yi, all of whom are very good. Wu Jin and Yu Han have reached the mysterious veins realm. He, put them in the 6 prefectures grand meeting, they are just cannon fodder, the star god servant sneered. Yes, and Ran could only sit down. Next, the priests reported one by one, and the highest was only the 2nd level of the Xuanhuan realm. Although the Xinjiao god servant was wearing a veil, it was obvious that she was in a very uncomfortable mood. Feng Qingxian, a woman in her 30s, with a holy face and beautiful appearance, stood up quickly when she heard the Xinjiao god servant call her name, and said, God servant, I have a disciple Nangong Shuiying, a member of the Tianpeng tribe, and her totem inherited a mixture of both parents. She has reached the 3rd level of the Xuanmei realm and has amazing combat power. Not bad. Finally, the Xinjiao god servant was satisfied. Jian Nankaiu. A man in a black robe stood up and said in a deep voice, my disciple Yang'el is at the 3rd level of the Xuanmei realm, not inferior to Nangong Shuiying. Okay, sit down. Juxian. The Xinjiao god servant's eyes fell on Juxian, who was playing with the hem of her skirt. What are you doing? The Xinjiao god servant stared at her. That, thinking, Juxian said quickly. Where is your disciple? The Xinjiao god servant asked. They are still young and can't participate in the 6 prefectures festival, he. Go away. End of chapter 5. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 74. Soon after, the star god servant had almost finished listening to all the reports. She showed a disappointed look and said, it sounds like there are many talented people in the entire sacrifice temple, but there is no real top one. Without a person like Zhang Junjian, it is impossible to fight against the royal descendants of the Holy Dragon Palace. According to the current situation, if we lose the first place that we have never lost in the 6 prefectures festival, it will really be a laughing stock in the world. The royal family is just for an opportunity to correct its reputation. In the future, it will be even more difficult for the sacrifice temple to have more talented children. For the sacrifice temple, even if it gets 2nd place, it is unacceptable. The 6 prefectures festival 5 years ago was resolved thanks to the appearance of Zhang Junjian, but this time, it was stretched to the limit. The star god servant and the priests were silent for a long time. Everyone knew that the god servant was in a very bad mood. If he spoke at this time, the end would definitely be miserable. Juxian also lowered his head, and now he dared not play with his skirt. The Holy Dragon Palace, the National Defense Palace, even the mysterious weapon pavilion, the 10,000 Beasts Palace, etc., as far as I know, have one or two outstanding figures, at least above the fourth level of the mysterious vein realm, and have a heaven-level totem. The cold voice of the star god servant was pervasive in this secret room. On the high platform, the 9 gods' lifeless eyes stared at the front, motionless from beginning to end. There are more than 2 months left, let's hold a test. I plan to take out that thing, but after all, there is only one, so who will inherit it, what do you think? The priests were stunned. Someone asked, Master God Servant, what is that thing? The star god servant responded with 2 words, Tai Chi. Hearing these 2 words, everyone was shocked, and many people showed a light of desire. That was something that even the priests were eager for. The eyes of the 9 immortals also moved slightly. There is only one Tai Chi, and it can only be given to one disciple. As for who it should be given to, I believe everyone wants it. In this case, let's hold a test and choose one person. The star god has already decided. The priests were a little agitated, and everyone looked at each other and saw each other's enthusiastic mood. The Tai Chi must be given to a disciple. Let this disciple have the opportunity to shine at the 6 prefectures festival. However, only one person can get the Tai Chi, so for fairness, a test must be conducted. The winner of this test will have the opportunity to own the Tai Chi. Zhu Xian curled her lips. That was something she had wanted for a long time, but it was actually going to be given to the disciple. When everyone was in a commotion, Xinjiao Divine Servant said, I will formulate the rules of the test later and then announce them. You go back and each of you select 5 people. Each person has 5 quotas. You can decide who to give them to. Who has the possibility to preserve the dignity of my sacrifice temple and its eternal youth? Yes. Disband. Farewell to the divine servant. The secret room meeting ended here. Juxian watched Xuanhuan and the divine servant walk into the iron gate, and then stood up. Juxian, it seems that you only have one disciple in the Xuanmei realm, is there a vacant quota for me? And Ran came out of nowhere and said with a smirk. Get lost. Juxian rolled his eyes at him and walked away. After half a day, Bai Shenjin was familiar with Zhang Zizai and the others. Zhang Zizai also quickly read the books of the Sacrifice Temple. He now knew how to be a disciple of the Sacrifice Temple. For example, how to make merit, get rewards, and have the opportunity to have the skills and battle tactics. For example, on the 1st and 15th day of the lunar month, you need to follow the priest to worship the ancient gods. For example, which parts of the temple of sacrifice are they not allowed to enter rashly? For example, the punishment of the temple of sacrifice, what punishment will be given for doing something wrong? If you don't remember these things clearly and are completely ignorant, it's easy to fall into the trap. Although it is a temple, with the development of the times, the rules of the temple of sacrifice are no different from other schools in Yanlongxiu except for the worship of the ancient gods. For example, the temple of sacrifice is divided into priests, Yuanqing, and divine servants. On the side of the Holy Dragon Palace, there are outer disciples, Holy Dragon Guards, respected teachers, Dragon Qing, and Palace Masters. Among all the schools, the 6 largest ones, in addition to the Temple of Sacrifice and the Holy Dragon Palace, are the Xianbing Pavilion, the 10,000 Beasts Palace, the Blue Sea Pavilion, the Huguo Mansion, etc. The interior is basically set up like this, but the names may be different. With this knowledge, you won't be like a headless fly in the sacrifice temple. The most important thing is the reward and punishment setting of the sacrifice temple. In terms of rewards, the disciples will have fixed cultivation resources every month. There are also fixed options for ordinary skills and battle tactics. However, if you want to get the top ones, you need to make merit to obtain them. Of course, the priest and Yuanqing will sometimes give them directly. There is no need to worry about young people with outstanding talents. To make merit, Sometimes you can overcome the difficulties set by the sacrifice temple, such as hunting source beasts, or challenge some fixed tests inside the sacrifice temple, such as climbing the cloud tower. There are many ways, but basically, you need to work hard. There are many reward mechanisms here. Zhang Zizai knows very well that in a place like the sacrifice temple, the more outstanding the talent, the more resources you seem to get. Once, my father and my brother both laid a solid foundation here in the sacrifice temple. Here, we are famous all over the world as disciples of the sacrifice temple. This shows that the sacrifice temple is indeed a place that can make people have a strong foundation. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. If you are over 40 years old and are still just a priest, and you cannot meet the standards of a priest, you will leave the sacrifice temple and regain your free status. But generally speaking, many people leave after the age of 20. Because the priests of the sacrifice temple are too difficult. If you don't become a priest, you will definitely not be able to stay in the sacrifice temple for a lifetime. The academy is a place to train young people. After entering, in addition to the priests, there are young men and women everywhere, and they are all young boys and girls with outstanding talents and looks. Just the 9 Immortals pavilion, those beautiful girls are dazzling. Just because there are 9 Immortals, Zhang Zizai's eyes never linger on them. While Zhang Zizai was reading the classics, Bai Shenjin went out for a while. After a while, he knocked on the door and shouted outside, "Handsome men and beautiful women, open the door quickly. I will introduce you to a new friend." Ruo Xiaoyu went to open the door, and saw Bai Shenjin brought back a slightly thin boy with short hair, delicate appearance, and a little shy. However, Zhang Zizai noticed his eyes instantly. Those eyes looked like the eyes of insects, more like the eyes of flies. They were densely packed compound eyes, but they grew on people. But strangely, they were not only not ugly, but also very beautiful, giving this thin boy a special elegant temperament. Black Clan. Zhang Zizai stood up. He had met many young men from the Black Clan of the 9 clans at Enran's place before. The temperament of this one was a bit similar to those few. That's right, this little coward is from the Black Clan, and he's the son of the clan leader. His status is similar to yours, no, it's a little worse than yours, and he's the legendary illegitimate child, haha, his name is Wan Qian, and I have a good relationship, mainly because this guy doesn't look down on my background. Bai Shenjin held his collar and introduced him casually. He dared to tell the other person's background directly, which shows that their relationship is actually very good. The boy named Wan Qian straightened his clothes and said, "Wan Qian greets everyone." Bai Shenjin said, "We came in at the same time and have been together for a year. He has a very good personality and can be bullied at will, without being polite to me." Ruo Xiaoyu frowned and said, "Do you treat your friends like this? Go wash your hair quickly. That messy hairstyle is really unbearable for her obsessive-compulsive disorder. The guy next to her named Wan Qian is much cleaner. I'm Zhang Zizai. Let's play together in the future." Okay, Wan Qian nodded. Zhang Zizai had no prejudice against the Black Clan. There were all kinds of people everywhere. This Wan Qian was obviously not the same as Enran's Wan Shat. "Are you brothers with that Wan Shat?" "We have the same father but different mothers. He is the eldest son." Zhang Zizai understood that in fact, their clan still valued the eldest son, unless the talents of other heirs far exceeded the eldest son. Bai Shenjin said that Wan Qian was an illegitimate child, which was even worse, indicating that his mother's status might be lower, at least for their family, it was not up to the standard. Wan Qian is also the 9th level of the Wu Ming realm. His totem is the Earth-level totem Thousand Eyes Bug Totem. That look is unique. Don't think he is very well behaved. Maybe he peeks at girls changing clothes every day. Wan Qian was very anxious and blushed. He said, "Don't talk nonsense. I never did. Haha. Everyone laughed. As soon as he looked like this, he knew he was not such a person. Thousand Eyes Bug. No wonder his eyes were so powerful. Wan Qian has no close combat ability. His hobbies are all about pupil skills. His eyes are very powerful, Bei Shanjin introduced seriously after laughing. Just as he finished speaking, someone suddenly shouted from below. Wan Qian, your brother is looking for you. Then someone said coldly, bullshit, he is not qualified to be my brother. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 75. Upon hearing this voice, Wan Qian's body visibly trembled. Where are you hiding? The savage voice gradually approached. Zhang Zizai's door was open, and a group of 5 people on the opposite side happened to pass by and saw Wan Qian inside. Get out. Those 5 people happened to be the ones Zhang Ziyu met in the entrance hall. The leader is Wan Sha, the young man with the totem pattern on his neck. Jin Ding, who just came in, is also there. There are 3 others left, 2 men and 1 woman. They all have cold temperaments and all belong to the Black family. At this time, Wan Sha had not clearly seen Zhang Zizai and others. I'm going out for a moment, Wan Qian and Zhang Zizai greeted them. Are these bastards targeting you again? Bai Shanjin's eyes suddenly turned red. They came directly to us. How unreasonable. Don't be impulsive, it's not the first time, Wan Qian said quickly. Don't worry, spend money to eliminate the disaster. They'll only push further. So what? Wan Qian shook his head helplessly. He asked Bai Shanjin to stay here. He walked out alone. As soon as he walked out, 5 teenagers from the Black World clan surrounded him. This month, take out the 33rd grade spiritual stones that the family has given you. Wan Sha was much higher than him. He stood in front of him with a tyrannical look in his eyes, leaving no room for negotiation. 30, Wan Qian was startled for a moment and said, that's not okay. I only gave you 30 pieces in total. You used to leave at least 5 for me. If you take them all, how can I practice? Wan Sha smiled. What are you practicing? Useless pupil skills? In one breath, I can kill you 10 times. Don't think that you are no longer a waste after entering the Temple of Sacrifice. Waste, whatever training resources you need, take them all. Clan, there's a new little brother here and we need resources. He pointed at the golden tripod. Maybe to Wan Sha, this is a brother. But Wan Qian, who has the same father and mother, is not. What do the clan think? I'll give you 33rd grade spiritual stones, but only 20 golden cauldrons. You're not even worthy of carrying his shoes. Don't look at his Xian level totem, the 8th level of martial life realm, one of them will kill 10 of you. Wan Sha pressed him into the corner. He was already impatient and said, take it out quickly. I'm in a hurry. Don't let me do it. Seeing Wan Qian being so aggrieved, Bai Shanjin couldn't bear it anymore. He walked out and said, it's really ridiculous. It's so weird to help people who are not relatives and bully your brothers who are related by blood. It's so unscrupulous. Come on, we, Juxian Pavilion, bully us. He wanted other onlookers to stand up and help at this time. However, when those people heard what he said, they took a few steps back, clearly indicating that this matter had nothing to do with him. This can make Baishan angry. A bunch of grandchildren. But others would only laugh at him for being stupid, with no background and no backing, yet he dared to confront the eldest son of the 9 major clans like Wan Sha. Who are you? You have the right to speak here? Baishan Jin, right? Get away, or your parents' shop will be raided. Wan Sha smiled coldly. He knew Bai Shanjin's background clearly. They are a group of people who are indeed powerful and can bully others with their power. Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing walked out and stood beside Bai Shanjin. Is it you? Wan Sha's eyes were deep. Zhang Zizai glanced at him and said, You keep saying that he is a waste. He fights with others and helps outsiders to humiliate his brothers. This is the real waste. I just came to the temple of sacrifice today. It is the first time I have seen such a waste. I have learned a lot. Zhang Zizai. Are you sick? What do I do and it's your turn to take care of me? Who do you think you are now? Wan Sha said coldly. Zhang Zizai waved his hand and said, it doesn't matter who I am, I just want to say a few words for the friend I just met. Talk nonsense, be careful of getting slapped, Wan Sha gritted his teeth. Seeing this, Wan Qian took a deep look at Zhang Zizai, then shook his head and said, forget it, I'll give it to you, and leave quickly. Unexpectedly, Wan Sha glared at him and said, I'm not leaving today, Zhang Zizai, come down, you just came to the temple today, right? I'll teach you how to behave. The second level of Xuanmei realm is amazing. When everyone saw it, they saw a good show. Don't be like this, can't I give it to you? Wan Qian was worried and said quickly. No. Wan Sha stared at Zhang Zizai and said, if you have the guts, come down with me. Everyone's eyes fell on Zhang Zizai. From the front, Zhang Zizai must have a very fierce personality. There was no way he would not accept this kind of provocation. Unexpectedly, Zhang Zizai suddenly laughed and said, I'm not a fool. I haven't gotten the totem for half a year. Who wants to fight with you? Get out of here. If you dare to hit someone here, I will report it to the priest. The criminal law unit punishes you. He had just seen it. If it was not a fight agreed by both parties, but one party attacked the other party, he would obviously be punished. I didn't expect him to be so cowardly. I heard that he defeated the first level of Xuanmei realm. I don't know why he defeated him. The onlookers immediately cast disdainful glances. However, Zhang Zizai didn't care. To be honest, there was really no need to fight in a battle that had no chance of winning and a battle that was meaningless. Young people have to take a breath, but it depends on the time. Now is not the time. Coward! You have disgraced the Kailan royal family, Wan Sha laughed scornfully. I'll give it to you. Come on, you guys, Wan Qiandu took out the spirit stone. Don't give it, what can they do? Do you want to do something? Zhang Zizai said. Wan Qian took the spirit stone back again. Come on, give it a try. Zhang Zizai stood in front of Wan Qian, the light in his eyes was no weaker than Wan Sha's. You have to think carefully. If you offend me, there will be many opportunities to deal with you in the future, Wan Sha said in a deep voice. Zhang Zizai laughed dumbly and said, what about the future? It's just 1 month, and you have to kneel in front of me. Ha ha. Wan Sha and the onlookers all laughed heartily. It's a shameless talk. Walk. This time in Juxian Pavilion, with so many people watching, it was really inconvenient to do anything, so Wan Sha had no choice but to retreat. Where to go? Suddenly, a woman in a white dress walked in from outside. Wan Sha, you kid is quite savage. You come directly to our class and bully our classmates. Zhu Xian, his voice was cold and his pitch gradually increased. Wan Sha and others suddenly felt cold all over. Snap! After a slap, Wan Sha flipped several times in the air. When he fell to the ground, half of his face was swollen. Bang bang bang. The other 4 are like this. Priest, spare your life, I will never dare again. Wan Sha's face was filled with tears. He regretted it because of his domineering behavior today. Even if he was tortured by the 9 immortals, his priest and Ran would have nothing to say. The key point is that they didn't expect their priest to come back. Put your butt up for me and crawl out like a dog, Juxian said in a soft, yet dangerous voice. Well. One by one, they raised their buttocks and crawled out. Everyone burst into laughter. This grand occasion would become a topic of conversation before and after tea within a month. The young men from the Black World clan, who were so arrogant just now, turned into cowards when they met the 9 immortal queen. To be honest, with their families, no priest would humiliate them like this. But the 9 immortals are special. Although her beauty is praised, the priests all say that at certain times, she is simply a devil. Moreover, she seems to be fearless. Why are you laughing? When you see your classmates being bullied, you didn't stand up, but the new classmate did, and you still have the nerve to laugh at others. Xuanhuan glanced at them, and the priests immediately stood upright, no longer daring to laugh. What do you mean, classmate? Zhang Zizai asked in a low voice. I don't know. The priest likes to call us classmates and wants us to say hello in a neat manner every day, saying hello teacher and so on. Teacher? Do you mean the old master? Don't talk nonsense, be careful and you will end up like Wan Sha and them, Bai Shenjing quickly reminded. As he spoke, Xuanhuan looked around the entire Xuanhuan pavilion with sharp eyes and said, Get out of here, I have something to announce, which is related to your future. Zhang Zizai was also here, and he saw how fiercely she treated her students. However, she has just arrived, what does she want to announce? Zhang Zizi felt curious. Thank you for just now. Wan Qian walked to him and whispered. You're welcome, we are all classmates, and we should help each other, Zhang Zizai said. Yes, we are all classmates. We learn so fast. Xuanhuan glanced at him and cast a flirtatious look at Zhang Ziyi, which immediately made everyone stunned. Her attitude towards Zhang Zizai was completely different from that towards other people. Was that charming look just now the 9 immortals? There will be an update at 1800 hours. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 76. The sacrificial disciples of the 9 Immortals Pavilion held their breaths and waited quietly for the 9 Immortals to announce the great event she mentioned. To be honest, the 9 Immortals Pavilion is not only sparse in people, but also good and bad. The main reason is that every time a new priest arrives, the 9 immortals are too lazy to grab them. Those priests push the rest to her. Wan Qian and Bai Shenjin's identities were that one was a commoner and the other was an illegitimate child. Otherwise, they would have been taken away by other priests. It can be seen that the priests are in awe of the 9 immortals, which is completely different from the way Zhang Zizai gets along with the 9 immortals. When everyone was waiting with bated breath, the 9 immortals said, We sacrificed to the temple, and we got a divine object the year before last. It is an evolutionary source of full attribute adaptation, as you all know. Full attribute adaptation. Everyone exclaimed. This is a rare and quite rare source of evolution. Many people get the source of evolution, but cannot use it, or the evolution fails. The main reason is that the attributes are not suitable. The more advanced the evolutionary source, the fewer people can adapt to it. Even if it is a 4th or 5th level evolutionary source, it is useless if it is not suitable for you. Moreover, there is no way to be sure before using it whether it is suitable for you. Many people use the top evolutionary sources on themselves, but as a result, evolution fails. It was really hard to cry without tears. Especially in many cases, those sources of evolution are obtained at the expense of everything. Under such a premise, the fully adapted evolutionary source that has been verified in history is extremely precious. No matter who gets it, they can evolve. Evolution rarely fails. This kind of evolutionary source is rare, but it is basically treasured and popular, and will not be brought out until the critical moment. Priest, I've never heard of it. What is the source of all attribute evolution? Someone asked. The 9 immortals narrowed their eyes slightly and said, the top existence in the 3rd level evolutionary source, with all attributes adapted, more precious than the 4th level evolutionary source, no matter who you get it, can evolve to the heaven level totem, if you get the heaven level totem, you may be able to evolve to the desolate level totem. Everyone knows that it is really difficult to find a top evolution source that suits you. A full attribute adaptation will definitely make everyone rush for it, because everyone knows that if they get it, they will instantly change their destiny and become the top genius. A source of evolution can make anyone reach the sky in one step. This is something that ordinary evolutionary sources cannot do. Some evolutionary sources have very few adapted people. There may be so many worshippers in the temple that there may not be even one suitable person. The priests knew that the 9 immortals' mention of such a third-level evolutionary source must be related to their priests, so now, everyone's eyes were blazing. Heavenly totem. Everyone showed longing eyes. What is the desolate level totem? Ruo Xiaoyu tilted her head and asked Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai said, Kung Fu, Qi, and totems are all divided into heaven and earth Xuanhuan. Beyond the heaven level, it is the desolate level. I heard that there are actually 4 realms above the heaven level. Taken together, it is the world is Xuanhuan, and the universe is vast. Above the wilderness level, there are Hong level totems, and further up, there are the legendary universe levels. However, these 2 levels exist in the legendary reality. The world, I'm afraid, doesn't exist. He only learned about this recently. I used to think that there were only 4 levels, heaven, earth, Xuanhuan. Unexpectedly, there is also ancient wilderness. My mother's totem is the desolate level totem. What about my uncle's? The 8 super totems should be Hong level, because the book says that the totems of the 2 levels of the universe only exist in ancient myths. In fact, Zhang Zizai still yearns for it. He knew that since these 2 levels of the universe were separated, they must have existed. The 8 super totems have not appeared for a long time. I really don't know what the grand occasion will be like for the totems of the 2 levels of universe. This 3rd level evolutionary source can allow the heaven level totem to evolve into a wild level totem, which is definitely the top existence among the 3rd level evolutionary sources. Trolls probably can't even do it. He listened to Juxian's description, and his eyes were actually a little fiery. The 9 immortals have obviously aroused everyone's interest and desire. When the priests, like little ducks, stretched their necks to look at her, she smiled and said, the name of this evolutionary source is called Tai Chi, also called Yin and Yang. Its totem characteristics can create a shadow of true energy in any person's body. For example, if you are in the martial arts realm and have 9 spiritual orifices opened, then Tai Chi means opening 9 shadow spiritual orifices. The shadow spiritual orifices can store true energy. Qi makes you have the amount of Qi of 18 spiritual orifices. Of course, the burst of Qi in a certain period of time is equivalent to 9 spiritual orifices. Compared with your opponent, you not only have double attacks, but also twice the amount of Qi. Fighting endurance. The secondary evolutionary source double head is a simplification of Tai Chi. The double head can only have dual Qi attacks. Tai Chi truly creates the Qi shadow. Therefore, it is also called yin-yang. By analogy, if you are in the mysterious vein realm and have 3 mysterious veins opened, then the shadows of the 3 mysterious veins will appear in your body, giving you twice the combat endurance and double the burst of true energy. The so-called double burst of true energy means that during an attack, one attack will cause double damage, like a wave, one after another. If someone is hit by Zhang Zizai's golden dragon seal, it is equivalent to being hit twice. Tai Chi is not only a fully adaptable evolution source, but its totem characteristics are something that even I envy. Even the priests of the entire sacrifice temple want to get it and then evolve their totems to the wild level. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. After so much exaggeration, the young priests can no longer remain calm. That is definitely a treasure that everyone dreams of and can make the sacrifice temple boil. Then why am I telling you? Juxian aroused suspense. Everyone stretched their necks and waited. Because I just want to tease you, haha. She laughed coquettishly. Ah. Everyone was stunned. How could there be such a priest in this world? When everyone was disappointed and depressed, Juxian finally finished laughing and said suddenly, the God's servant has decided to give Tai Chi to the strongest disciple in the entire sacrifice temple. For a moment, there was silence, and people finally realized that in fact, Tai Chi was still related to them, because, after all, they were disciples. So who is the strongest disciple in the sacrifice temple? Juxian's eyes swept across the crowd and stayed on Zhang Zizai for a while. Nangong Shuiying? Shen Qingyu? Yang'el? Wancha, everyone discussed. Who is the strongest is not based on words, so the God's servant decided to hold a test next to determine the strongest among the disciples and give him Tai Chi. Wow! This is indeed an exciting event. Everyone widened their eyes, wondering if they had a chance. The specific test rules have not been formulated yet, but currently, I have the quota to nominate 5 people to participate in the test. Which 5 people can represent our Juxian pavilion to participate in the battle? It turned out that everyone still had a chance to participate in the battle. For a moment, many people's eyes were burning with excitement. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 77. 5 people, representing the 9 Immortals Pavilion, compete for the Tai Chi. Zhang Zizai didn't expect that he would encounter such a grand event just after he arrived. His black dragon totem should be a heaven-level totem, at least his black dragon true chi is a heaven-level true chi, not weaker than Lu Dingxing's troll true chi. If he can get the Tai Chi, then it is possible that he can evolve to the wild level, which is the same level as Ruohua. In their teenage years, there was no wild level totem in the entire Yanlong dynasty. Only some people of Ruohua's generation had the wild level totem, but they were basically in high positions. If he could get this Tai Chi, the benefits in the future would definitely be quite huge. Even many people regard this as an opportunity to turn over. The evolution source of fully adapted, yin and yang true chi is really rare. The Temple of Sacrifice actually took it out to reward the disciples, which was really too generous. It felt a bit like a broken jar. He still remained calm and listened to the 9 Immortals. She was the best at keeping people on edge. At this time, she pursed her lips and asked with a smile, so, who do you think can represent our Juxian pavilion to compete with other priests' disciples? There is only one Xuanmei realm in the entire Juxian pavilion. For a moment, everyone's eyes fell on Dong Yangsheng. Dong Yangsheng looked enthusiastic and said, Priest, Dong Yangsheng is willing to fight for Juxian pavilion. Someone else said, at least you have to be in the 9th level of the Wuming realm. If you are not at that level, don't even think about it. But there are also 7 people in the 9th level of the Wuming realm. Who should we choose? They all looked at Juxian eagerly. They felt that Dong Yangsheng must have reserved a quota, and the rest would need to compete. Juxian is the one who holds the power to make decisions. She scanned the crowd with her beautiful eyes. Maybe she didn't have an idea yet. When she saw Dong Yangsheng, she hooked her fingers and said, You, stand up. Dong Yangsheng was overjoyed, but he still had to keep calm on his face. He tried to restrain himself, stood up, and said, Thank you, priest, for giving me this opportunity. Juxian ignored him, and then she saw Bai Shenjin. Come out. Master priest, is it me? Bai Shenjin couldn't believe it. Hurry up. Okay. Bai Shenjin laughed, as if he had picked up money. The third one, Wanqian Juxian said. Wanqian was a little surprised. Priest, Wanqian practices pupil skills, he has no combat ability, Dong Yangsheng reminded. Do you need me to say who I choose? Juxian glanced at him. Yes, I was wrong. Dong Yangsheng lowered his head quickly. He was a little scared. Obviously, the selection of people was all Juxian's own decision. He said too much. In fact, he knew that the people in Juxian Pavilion didn't have many opportunities. They were all cannon fodder. It was already very good for him to have the opportunity to participate in the war. It is said that this time we are playing a team game. Wanqian, you have a chance to show your skills, Juxian said. I will try hard, Wanqian nodded quickly. Team game. Zhang Zizai thought that it might be a group game. Wanqian's pupil technique could really be very useful in such a game. Who is the fourth one? Many people in the 9th level of Wuoming realm were eager to try. There were 2 places left, and there were 5 people in the 9th level of Wuoming realm. Juxian's eyes swept over them one after another, but missed them all. Zhang Zizai, come out, Juxian smiled charmingly and hooked her finger at him. Zhang Zizai was not surprised that he would fight. His fighting power was one of the best in the Juxian Pavilion, although he was only in the 8th level of Wuoming realm. Everyone took a look and was a little unconvinced. They just heard that Zhang Zizai had defeated the Xuanmei realm, but there was no news about how he defeated him. And just now, when Wanqia challenged him, he actually escaped. He looked cowardly, so many people were very dissatisfied. However, they could only bear it because of Dong Yangsheng's previous experience. The remaining 9th level martial arts realm players could only hope that they could get the last spot. Finally, Juxian pointed at Lu Dingxing. You, come out. Me. Lu Dingxing was only the 7th level martial arts realm player. Although he was a heavenly totem, he was no match for the 9th level martial arts realm player. Yes, it's you. Hurry up. Lu Dingxing could only trot out. 5 people, all together. Except for Dong Yangsheng, all 4 of them were there. Dong Yangsheng saw Lu Dingxing and his 5 9th level martial arts realm friends, all of whom looked very angry. He could not bear it and said, Master Priest, since this is a team game, why not choose someone who can contribute more to the team? Lu Dingxing should only be the 7th level martial arts realm player, and his fighting power is not stable. Maybe Zhao Yuan, Zhang Tianzhou and others would be more suitable. Oh, are you questioning my ability to choose people? Juxian looked at him gently, but the look was already dangerous. I don't dare, I just think. Dong Yangsheng lowered his head quickly, but he was still entangled. Juxian interrupted him and said, I understand. A team must have cohesion and a core. You, Dong Yangsheng, can't be the core, and you can't unite with others. Although you have some combat power, I still choose to give up on you. You go back. Dong Yangsheng was struck by lightning. He didn't expect that she would be so frivolous and exclude him just because he said one more word. He has always believed that in the entire 9 Immortals Pavilion, he is the only one who can rise to the top. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. I have always believed that I am the #1 disciple here and the only face of the 9 Immortals. She gave up on herself so directly. He raised his head in disbelief. But he saw Juxian gently saying to a girl, Ruo Xiaoyu, Dong Yangsheng has given you the spot you don't want. You should perform well together with your brothers. Ruo Xiaoyu jumped up and said happily, thank you, sister-in-law, the priest. She actually wanted to go. Although she didn't know how far the sky was from her, she wanted to join in the fun. Seeing Ruo Xiaoyu running over happily, Zhang Zizai didn't even expect that she would allocate the 5 places like this. It would be a little bit fun. Priest. Dong Yangsheng saw that he had let a little girl at the 6th level of martial life squeeze out, and he couldn't bear it. Many of the priests present also couldn't believe it. Before they could attack, Juxian's expression suddenly turned cold. It is difficult for these young people to challenge his authority. If you have any objections to me, get out of the temple of sacrifice and see which priest dares to take you in. I can take away your identity as a disciple of the temple of sacrifice at any time. Her words, coupled with the strong man's momentum, suddenly made Dong Yangsheng take a few steps back, his face turned pale with fear. The others immediately took a few steps back. The 9 immortals looked around and said, I have my own criteria for selecting people. Bai Shenjin and Wan Qian are younger and have more prospects than you, Dong Yangsheng. Their totem characteristics of wind and fire domain and thousand-eyed insight are both they can contribute a lot in team battles. As for Lu Dingxing and Ruo Xiaoyu, you will see the power of their totem characteristics in the future. As for Zhang Zizai, he is a fighting machine in the team, and the room for growth is yours. More than 100 times more powerful than Dong Yangsheng, I think you are no longer his match. Zhang Zizai didn't expect that Zhu Xian would think so highly of him. Of course, his point of view is similar to that of the 9 immortals. If it is a team game, no matter how outstanding an individual is, he still has to serve the team. A centrifugal person who is forcibly combined with others will lead to a decrease in the team's combat effectiveness. Moreover, a team can only have one core. What she meant was quite obvious. I gave up on you because of Zhang Zizai. Zhu Xian is very serious. At this time, she is indeed domineering. Suddenly, she smiled. I know you are not convinced, so I will give you a chance. If you can defeat Zhang Zizai, then you will become the core of the team. You can eliminate all the remaining 4 people and choose the partner you want. After saying these words, everyone finally knew the true meaning of the 9 immortals. There is only one core team. A team can only be built around one person. Dong Yangsheng and Zhang Zizai are incompatible. Priest, it's not too much. The chance she gave Dong Yangsheng is actually very big. It seemed strange just now, but now I understand. She thought of 2 candidate teams, and let the 2 decide the winner, and the winner will play. The priest's considerations are reasonable. After all, if the team doesn't get along, there is no need to fight with others. You will be in chaos yourself. Maybe she is doing this for Dong Yangsheng's sake. Dong Yangsheng was furious, but he didn't expect happiness to come so suddenly. Priest, if you defeat him, you can form your own team. He was a little stunned, as if he had flown from hell to the land of the ancient gods. Of course, I am actually quite fair, Zhu Xian said. Thank you, priest, for giving me this opportunity. Dong Yangsheng burst into tears of gratitude. He felt that the 9 immortals were actually doing this to test his own heart. Zhang Zizai doesn't even dare to accept Wan Sha's challenge. I don't even have the guts. I am only at the 8th level of the martial life realm. The deeds of Daejiang King City back then are probably exaggerated by the rumors. It turns out that the real candidate for the priest is Dong Yangsheng or us. Those people who were at the 9th level of the martial life realm, seeing the opportunity coming again, all gathered together to cheer for Dong Yangsheng. Zhang Zizai was pushed to the forefront. He looked at the 9 immortals helplessly and said, "Why are you forcing me to fight again?" Everyone looked at it and laughed, but this guy was scared again. "Don't let me down." Zhang Zizai could still withstand the charming look from the 9 immortals, but the priests behind him were already fascinated. Juxian's attitude towards Zhang Zizai made people jealous. Okay, he could only walk to the field and said to Dong Yangsheng, "Be gentle. After all, I have been traveling for many days and I am so tired that I haven't had a good rest yet." Everyone laughed again. Dong Yangsheng also smiled. I didn't expect this opponent to be so weak. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 78. Zhang Zizai had been here for less than a day, and he was going to take his place. Dong Yangsheng naturally couldn't accept it. To be honest, he hadn't been so eager to defeat someone for a long time. He walked towards Zhang Zizai with a tiger step, his eyes full of fighting spirit. A little above his eyebrows, a ball of green flame could be vaguely seen, and in the flame, there was a green bird with 3 legs. That was the Earth-level totem 3-legged blue Luan totem. In the sacrifice temple, there are some earth-level totems, but they can be regarded as geniuses among geniuses. Facing Dong Yangsheng's strong pressure, Zhang Zizai suddenly said, "Wait, I won't fight anymore." Everyone was stunned, and then whispered. They obviously felt that Zhang Zizai's words were not worthy of his status. Juxian was afraid that he would escape from the battlefield. She was very angry. She had taken the trouble to give him a chance to show his ability, but now she didn't want to fight. "Why don't you fight?" Zhang Zizai said, "I just got a totem magic weapon, which is the fire source gun, but I haven't found a suitable gun technique to practice. It's not worth fighting him at this juncture." Juxian understood what he meant. "Student Zhang Zizai." Juxian gritted her teeth, looking very playful and cute. "Okay, if you win, I will reward you with a low-grade star-level battle tactic fire meteor gun Dao. She didn't understand that Zhang Zizai was taking this opportunity to ask her for the battle tactic openly, otherwise why would he bring up the fire source gun? "Okay, Xuanhuan will definitely go all out," Zhang Zizai smiled. Dong Yangsheng's face darkened, and he felt humiliated. "Dong Yangsheng, I'm not partial. If you win, the middle-grade star-level battle tactic 10,000 Fire Evergreen Fist will be yours," Juxian said righteously. "Thank you, Master." Dong Yangsheng was about to burst into tears of gratitude, because that was the battle tactics he had longed for a long time. "This is unfair, why is he a middle grade and I am a low grade?" Zhang Zizai pouted. "Shut up, hurry up, or you will suffer tonight." Juxian was annoyed. Zhang Zizai laughed and finally focused his attention on Dong Yangsheng. "Tonight." When everyone heard this, it seemed that something was wrong with this sentence. Looking at the ambiguous look when the master talked to him, could it be? They didn't dare to think about it. For some reason, from the battle tactics and other aspects, Dong Yangsheng felt that Juxian favored him. But his intuition told him that he seemed to be an outsider. This intuition made him angry again, and the meaning of this battle seemed to be different. If you know what's good for you, admit defeat early, otherwise, your fists don't have eyes. Dong Yangsheng snorted coldly, stepped on the ground with a shock, and the dust flew, causing a commotion. Then, he rushed towards Zhang Zizai like an arrow from a bow. Zhang Zizai had fought against a Xuanmei realm opponent once. Of course, that was definitely a special situation. At that time, Zhang Zizai had the right time, right place, and right people. But now, he is stronger than he was then. Furnace Fire 8 Extremes Fist. As soon as Dong Yangsheng went into battle, he was unyielding. On his palm, green fire surrounded him, and the powerful true energy burst out, making the battlefield smoke like a furnace, extremely hot, and burning people sweating profusely. Every palm was high and covered, even if Zhang Zizai dodged it, it would still shake the dust. "Don't dodge if you dare." Dong Yangsheng missed several times, allowing Zhang Zizai to dodge with the Wind Dragon Demon Shadow. "I'm not a fool like you, why don't I dodge? Do you want me to stand there and let you hit me?" Zhang Zizai's Wind Dragon Demon Shadow quickly danced with the wind, making the surroundings whistling. Dong Yangsheng's Furnace Fire 8 Extreme Fist was also a little shaky under the howling wind, and it was even more impossible to hit Zhang Zizai. Although Zhang Zizai is in the martial life realm, his speed is really fast. The disciples looked at each other, recognizing Zhang Zizai's ability in this regard. What's the use of being fast? In a head-on confrontation, he will be exposed in an instant. Of course, more people maintained a disdainful attitude. This person who was so cowardly from beginning to end was deeply despised by them. Who said that? Miracles can happen when the speed is extremely fast. The disciples did not expect that Zhang Zizai was still listening to them when he turned into a black dragon shadow. Moreover, he even refuted. How easy is it to be like this? Dong Yangsheng, on the other hand, felt a little teased, chasing Zhang Zizai all over the field. "Can you catch up?" Zhang Zizai turned back and laughed at this time, which made Dong Yangsheng's face turn pale with anger. Die! He exploded again and rushed forward quickly. This fist was so angry that it finally hit the corner of Zhang Zizai's clothes. Grandson, don't run away, Dong Yangsheng was furious. Zhang Zizai looked back, still relaxed and natural. This is slow, let you see the fast one. As he spoke, he took out 4 talismans from his arms and stuck them all on his feet. Suddenly, his movements accelerated greatly, and the whole person turned into a black phantom, making Dong Yangsheng unable to see him. So fast. When he punched Zhang Zizai, he found that it was just a shadow. The next moment, a heavy attack hit his back. Bang! Dong Yangsheng flew out and fell flat on his face. His back was in burning pain, and he was dizzy, but he still couldn't believe it. He struggled to turn his body and stand up, and a huge force hit him. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Snap! Dong Yangsheng was knocked against the wall and almost fell apart. You lose. Zhang Zizai wrapped Black Lightning's arm around him, pinched his neck, lifted him up, and pressed him against the wall. I can break your neck now, Zhang Zizai said with a smile. That's what death feels like. The winner has been decided. Everyone can see it clearly, so I don't need to say anything more. Even though the 9 immortals had expected it, there was still a trace of surprise in his beautiful eyes. The speed of this young man's transformation is unimaginable. When Zhu Xian spoke, everyone stared with wide eyes, but they still haven't reacted. No. Dong Yangsheng's face was twisted, and he was about to explode in anger, but Zhang Zizai pressed his fingers hard, and he could only groan. After all, his life and death were now in Zhang Zizai's hands. To be honest, for Zhang Zizai, defeating this guy was not easy at all. Because it consumed 4 accelerating charms. Think about it, that is more than 100 third-grade spiritual stones, what a luxury. And it's still priceless. Classmate Zhang Zizai, don't be so rude to your classmates, let him go. Zhuxian coughed. Okay, at this time, Zhang Zizai threw the Dong Yangsheng out. Priest, Dong Yangsheng struggled to get up, his face flushed. When he saw everyone looking at him in astonishment, his face turned even redder. I don't accept it. He didn't defeat me with his real skills. He used something illegal, which is a talisman. Dong Yangsheng remembered that Zhang Zizai used 4 talismans. This is prohibited. Yes, otherwise he would not be Dong Yangsheng's opponent. At the beginning, he could only run away. A priest at the 9th level of the martial life realm said. Zhang Zizai violated the rules, so he should be considered defeated. Despicable and shameless, even using illegal things. When someone started, they responded one by one, all pointing their fingers at Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai, how do you explain it? Zhuxian looked like he wanted to help him solve this problem. Zhang Zizai looked innocent. He suddenly entered the room, took out a classic, pointed to one page and said to everyone, don't accuse me falsely. It says on it that disciples cannot use talismans to compete with each other, but if the talisman is made for oneself, can be used. Dong Yangsheng sneered and said, these are the rules of the section. Did you make the talisman just now? There will be an update at 1800 hours in the evening. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 79. Zhang Zizai coughed twice. He looked at those suspicious eyes, but kept smiling and said, it's my own work. Although it's a small test, the success rate is a bit high. There's nothing I can do about it. You're bragging. You're still shameless, Dong Yangsheng gritted his teeth and cursed angrily. How to prove it? What he means is that he is still a totem talisman master. Totem talisman masters are so rare. He just got the totem not long ago, less than half a year. Can he still become a talisman master? Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Which talisman master is not in his 30s? Almost everyone looked at him suspiciously. Ruo Xiaoyu was dissatisfied and said, "What do you know? My brother is very good. He succeeded in drawing the acceleration charm for the first time. I still have several in my arms now." Everyone laughed. It was a success the first time. There is no such person in the world. In that case, let's prove it to Zhang Zizai. Zhu Xian smiled. Zhang Zizai took out the other accelerating charms in his arms and said, "No, there are indeed many more." Dong Yangsheng spat and said, "Don't be ridiculous, your royal family has a lot of money, but you can't buy the accelerator charm yet." "Don't say that, I'm quite poor," Zhang Zizai said helplessly. Everyone is still pressuring, trying to make Zhang Zizai give up the opportunity to participate in the war and compete for Tai Chi. Zhu Xian suddenly said, "If you want to know the authenticity, it's not easy. Just draw a picture in person. In fact, the one who really wants to know the truth is herself. Hurry up, mother-in-law, if it's done successfully, I'll take you to see old man Xiao." Finally, she said what Zhang Zizai wanted to hear. "Okay, now." Of course he knew his talent in the way of talisman master. "Finally, it's time to go out there, perform, and rock the house." Last time, Xiao Yushin refused to accept a disciple. Let's see what he thinks this time. "Panda, bring a table and chairs." "Good." After a while, Zhang Zizai put away his pen, ink, paper and inkstone, looking like a totem talisman master. "Pretend now, you will be embarrassed soon," someone sneered. Zhang Zizai shook his head and said, "Everyone knows that even the top talisman masters are not successful every time. My success rate is only 2/3. In fact, 2/3 is a very high success rate." "Hurry up," someone was impatient. "If one picture doesn't work, just keep on painting. If you can draw one for a day, it will be fine." Dong Yangsheng has also paid attention to the totem talisman master and knows how difficult it is to succeed. Beginners who can get 1 out of 10 are all talented talisman masters. Under their doubtful eyes, Zhang Zizai withstood the pressure, and under the shocked eyes of the people, he wrote smoothly and smoothly. A brand new accelerating talisman appeared in front of everyone. "Come on, Dong Yangsheng, Xuanhuan will let you feel your heartbeat speeding up." Zhang Zizai stretched out his hand and placed the acceleration talisman on Dong Yangsheng's chest. Bang bang bang. Dong Yangsheng's heart beat faster and his face turned redder. "Haha, you're so shy. I'm a man, don't be like this," Zhang Zizai laughed. "Asshole." Dong Yangsheng's face turned red with anger, but he couldn't stop his rapid heartbeat. When Zhang Zizai smiled, the priests took a few steps back, and the way they looked at Zhang Zizai completely changed. One was smiling and indifferent, while the other was furious. The two were very different from each other. Moreover, this was not just about their current combat abilities, but also about their future potential. In contrast, Zhang Zizai was terrifyingly talented. Maybe at this time, they can figure out why the 9 Immortals chose Zhang Zizai. If it were them, they would choose Zhang Zizai. "Dong Yangsheng, give up and let him go. Anyway, Tai Chi is not something we from the 9 Immortals Pavilion can get involved in." Several of his friends were shaking their heads in despair. "Me," Dong Yangsheng gritted his teeth and refused to give in. When he looked at Zhang Zizai and met Zhang Zizai's eyes, he suddenly felt real fear in his heart. He shook his head, turned away from the people around him, and returned to his room. When he left, all this was a foregone conclusion. "So, the 5 candidates have been confirmed. Do you have any objections?" Juxian smiled and glanced at her classmates. Her smile was so dangerous that everyone was frightened and did not dare to say anything more. I have objections. Suddenly, a discordant voice sounded, and everyone saw that it was still Zhang Zizai. What objection do you have? Zhu Xian licked his red lips. They were both beautiful and scary. Where's my bolide spear? I'll give it to you tonight. Do you have any objections? That's gone. Very good, come with me. Zhu Xian crossed his fingers. What are you doing? Don't get the advantage and behave yourself, come here. Of course, take him to see Xiaoyushan. After Zhang Zizai and the 9 immortals walked away, the priests looked at each other in disbelief. People couldn't believe what happened in a short period of time. Xiaoyu, wait for me. When everyone dispersed, Bai Shenjin ran all the way to catch up with Ruo Xiaoyu and Lu Dingxing. What? Well, let me ask you a little question. Are your brother and the priest the same one? There are some, that, haha. Seeing that there was no one around, Ruo Xiaoyu whispered, I'm telling you, don't tell anyone. One day, I saw them hugging each other. Wow, Bai Shenjin's eyes were burning. Maybe one day, the priest will be my sister-in-law, Ruo Xiaoyu said happily. I kneel down to brother Zizai. Bai Shenjin jumped up and down excitedly. Haha, I'm just kidding you. The priest is our family's benefactor. Don't say anything nonsense, Ruo Xiaoyu warned. She also knew her limits. Is that so? But there will definitely be a chance in the future. I think their relationship is extraordinary. Bai Shenjin's face was full of gossip. By the way, we will be together for the next test. From now on, let's hang out together, Bai Shenjin continued to chatter. Wanqian, come here, it's going to be lively now. By the way, has the priest taught you 3 to play mahjong? It's fun. There are 4 of us now, so we can play at one table. What is mahjong? Don't worry about what it is, I'll teach you how to play. This is my homemade mahjong. All the patterns are carved by me. Is this a chicken? Is it carved vividly? This is a bird, not a chicken. The priest said it's a chicken, so it's a chicken. Zhu Xian took Zhang Zizai directly to find Xiaoyushan. It can be seen that although she didn't say it, she was quite shocked by Zhang Zizai's talent in Totem Talisman Master. She dared to take him there because she was sure that Xiaoyushan would treat Zhang Zizai as a treasure immediately after knowing it. This is also Zhang Zizai's purpose. He needs a backer and a stage to show his talent, so that he has the qualifications to fight against others. He has to fight for the entire temple. Zhu Xian walked by the side, the fragrance filled his nose, he looked sideways at her profile, that delicate and charming face, all the time, is an alluring magic. His eyes moved down again, placed on the more dreamy position. What are you looking at? Zhu Xian suddenly turned his head, startling Zhang Zizai. Ah, the beautiful scenery of the temple, Zhang Zizai said hurriedly. Is it beautiful? Beautiful. Want to touch it? Zhu Xian looked at him with a smile. Zhang Zizai shook his head and said, what nonsense, beautiful scenery is for viewing, how can it be touched? He added in his heart, unless I don't want to die. His serious answer made Zhu Xian chuckle, and it was like a blooming flower that could make the young man completely immersed in it. Some serious matters, I will say it simply and directly, and the rest, you can experience it yourself. Suddenly, she put away her smile and became a little serious. Okay, Zhang Zizai nodded. Do you know the 6 Prefectures Festival? Of course I know. When I was 10 years old, my brother won first place. The whole Xuanhuan city celebrated. Zhang Zizai recalled that day. Zhang Junjian had not returned at that time, but the news had been passed back. That day, even Ruohua laughed so hard that she bent over. Zhang Junjian, from then on, rose wildly. Zhu Xian continued, there are only more than 2 months to the next 6 Prefectures Festival. Zhang Zizai calculated the time and said, what a coincidence. It's not a coincidence, It's an arrangement. The venue of the Six Prefectures Festival has always been at the Huangguo Gate. Lu Yuan was beheaded at almost the same time and place. In short, it was after the Six Prefectures Festival, when the crowd was the most gathered, and Lu Yuan was beheaded in front of the world. She didn't say it in front of Lu Dingxing, probably because she was afraid that he would feel uncomfortable. Six Prefectures Festival, beheaded. Zhang Zizai's heart twitched. In order to let more people see it, such a time and such a place were arranged. The Six Prefectures Grand Meeting was the most important event of the dynasty. On that day, a large number of totem warriors gathered at the Imperial Martial Sect. It was the peak competition between the Imperial Academies and young talents. Juxian stared into his eyes and continued. We have long been weak in the sacrifice temple, especially in terms of the disciples. 5 years ago, we relied on your brother to barely save our face. The reason why the God servant took out the Tai Chi this time was to create a person who could compete with the top talents of other academies. In this test, you have many competitors, and they are all very powerful. I can only give you one place. The rest depends on your own ability. Okay. I know. Tai Chi, I must win, and then I will participate in the Six Prefectures Grand Meeting. No matter whether he can control it or not, no matter what fate it is, he at least knows what he will do on that day. He looked at Juxian in a daze. Why did she help him so much? Is it because of his outstanding talent? He calculated the time and knew that it would be much more difficult to defeat Taiji than to defeat Suqianyu and Zhang Zhengzi. Perhaps the only thing he could believe in was his courageous attitude. Six Prefectures Grand Meeting. He suddenly remembered that night 5 years ago. Zhang Zhengjian, Six Prefectures Grand Meeting, won the first place, the best in the world. The messenger rushed into the city, regardless of his face full of dust, and shouted loudly. 5 princes, all defeated. The geniuses of the Huguo Mansion and the Wanzhou Palace were all trampled underfoot. That night, the great Zhongqing city was decorated with lights and colors, and the name of the southern prince was feared by the world. That night, he was only 10 years old. He ran happily on the street, and the red lanterns on the street kept flying behind him. There were brilliant fireworks and cheerful laughter everywhere. At that time, he had failed twice on the Pillar of Origin. But that night, he looked at the endless fireworks and made a vow in his little eyes. When I, Zhang Zizai, grow up, I will also become the best in the world at the Six Prefectures Festival. He wanted the fireworks in the great Zhongqing city to bloom for him. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 80. The eastern region of the Sacrifice Temple is the residence of the Yuanqings. Ordinary worshippers cannot come here casually without the Yuanqing's permission. Yuanqing has a special status. They are different from priests. Priests are usually trained by the Temple of Sacrifice. There are 2 types of Yuanqing. Either they were once disciples of the Temple of Sacrifice. They became strong and then returned to the Temple of Sacrifice. Or they have never interacted with the Temple of Sacrifice at all and joined the Temple of Sacrifice. Therefore, in the sacrificial temple, the treatment and standards of Yuanqing are naturally better than those of priests. For example, Xiaoyushan has its own mansion named Xiao Mansion in the Temple of Sacrifice. He practices in Xiao Mansion on weekdays, drawing totem talismans, and basically no one will disturb him. Occasionally, he would be able to go out for a walk after being assigned tasks by the temple. Other times, he would live the life of a worldly expert. This old guy was so blind last time that he didn't bring you back directly. I'm going to scare him to tears with your performance later. The old man has seen a lot in the market, so it shouldn't be a problem. Zhang Ziyu is a novice in this regard and does not have enough confidence after all. Juxian knocked on the door, and as soon as he knocked, Xiaoyushan's voice came from inside. Come in. Pushing open the door, there is a large courtyard in front of you. Behind the courtyard is the front hall. The door of the front hall has been opened, and you can vaguely feel that someone is inside. Old man Xiao, I will bring you a baby today. Zhu Xian was in a cheerful mood. Don't make any noise. As soon as I entered the door, there was a middle-aged man in white robes standing on the left. He looked gentle and cultivated, but he was not angry but powerful. Jin Yuxuan, why are you here? Zhu Xian was a little surprised. Zhang Zizai estimated that this person was also a priest. In addition to the priest Jin Yuxuan, Xiao Yushan was standing on a desk. Behind the desk, a young man of similar age to Zhang Zizai was sitting on a chair. There were pens, inks, paper and inkstones on the table, and he was actually drawing talismans. No wonder Jin Yuxuan asked the 9 immortals not to make any noise. After all, the young man was already at a critical moment. He was sweating profusely and was completing the second half of the talisman. There are a few talisman papers next to it. The totem patterns on them are a bit confusing, and they are obviously failures, indicating that the young man has failed several times. Let's take a look first. Juxian stood next to Zhang Zizai, feeling a bit like a little bird. Xiao Yushan only looked back at them and focused on the young man's pen. It was also the first time for Zhang Zizai to see someone draw a talisman. He looked at it very carefully. The totem pattern drawn by the other person was very unfamiliar to him and a little complicated for him. It was obviously much more complicated than the acceleration talisman. Of talismans, I saw that the young man took every step very hard, failed several times, and had obviously consumed a lot of energy. Even his priest Jin Yuxuan was very nervous. Look at this young man, he is wearing a grey robe, his appearance is relatively ordinary, and his background is probably not high. To have the ability of this talisman master, he must have changed his destiny. Zhang Zizai admired and admired this kind of person. Finally, after a quarter of an hour, the young man in grey robe completed the talisman. At this time, his eyes filled with tears. He raised the talisman towards Jin Yuxuan and Xiao Yushan and said, Xiao Yuanqing, priest, I finally succeeded, the fireball talisman. It turned out to be a fireball talisman. Talismans are also divided into levels such as the universe, sun, moon, and stars due to their strength. The Fireball Talisman, Deceleration Talisman, and Fireball Talisman are all Chen level talismans. However, among the Chen level talismans, the Fireball Talisman is already high grade, while the Acceleration Talisman is the most basic talisman. The division of talismans is the same as that of totem weapons. This grey-robed young man can draw this Fireball Talisman, and he is already considered a Chen level totem talisman master. At his age, having such an achievement should be considered quite outstanding in the entire Yanlong dynasty. It was officially the case, and the young man burst into tears. The priest Jin Yuxuan also smiled and said to Xiao Yushan, Brother Xiao, according to the previous agreement, I will leave it to you for the growth of Shen Qingyu as a talisman master. Xiao Yushan was also in a good mood and said, Of course I do what I say and accept this disciple. Of course, it is limited to the talisman master. Personality and martial arts have nothing to do with me. I only want to sacrifice to the temple, discover talents, and train talisman masters. Talisman talent. Jin Yuxuan patted the young Shen Qingyu on the head and said, Why don't you kneel down to thank your teacher? Shen Qingyu hurriedly said respectfully, Greetings to your respected master. From now on, Qingyu will work hard to make progress, correct his character, and serve the temple. Just don't smash my sign, Xiao Yushan said. He waved his hand and said, You are my 8th disciple. There are 7 senior brothers before you, but now they are all priests and they are all across the country. We will have the opportunity to meet in the future. Shen Qingyu said excitedly, The 7 senior brothers are all my role models. Xiao Yushan nodded and said, Okay, go back and rest. From now on, you will come once a month to report the results. If you have any questions that you really don't understand, you can come and ask. You can think about the fire snake talisman I gave you last time. Yes, respected master. Shen Qingyu was still excited and even trembled when he spoke. In that case, brother Xiao, I'll take my leave. Jin Yuxuan was about to take him away. At this time, they remembered that Juxian and a strange boy were here. 9 Immortals, why do you have time to come here today? Usually you are like a dragon that sees the beginning but not the end, Jin Yuxuan greeted. Zhu Xian pursed his lips, pointed at Zhang Zizai, and said, originally, I planned to give the old man an 8th disciple, but it turned out he was late, so I could only give him the 9th one. Jin Yuxuan and Shen Qingyu didn't expect it. They looked at Zhang Zizai in astonishment. Jin Yuxuan asked, who is this young man? You must know him. Take a look at his appearance, Juxian pretended to be mysterious. Jin Yuxuan looked at him for a few more times, put away his smile, and said, it turns out to be Zhang Zizai, the second son of King Nan. He is really similar to King Zilan. Zhang Zizai, Shen Qingyu muttered to himself. Xiao Yushan was a little confused and said, you just came to the temple today. You came to me so soon. Did you finish the acceleration talisman? Zhang Zizai nodded. So soon? Have you used up the talisman paper I gave you? When he asked, Jin Yuxuan and Shen Qingyu looked at each other and did not leave. Zhang Zizai said, no, there are still some left. Xiao Yushan became interested and said quickly, it seems that you really succeeded. Show me your work. Zhang Zizai escaped from his arms. So many, all successful, Xiao Yushan widened his eyes. Jin Yuxuan was a little curious and said, speeding up talismans are not very common. Xiao Yushan looked at Zhang Zizai in surprise and said, the key is that he has been in contact with the way of talismans for less than a month. Drawing so many speeding up talismans in 1 month is really amazing. Shen Qingyu calculated that he was indeed far behind. He started learning talismans at the age of 13 and it has been 2 years now. It is indeed your work. Xiao Yushan smelled it. It was the talisman ink he gave. He knew what it was made of and how it smelled. Don't talk about other things. Draw one for me on the spot. Okay. You will know whether it is a mule or a horse by pulling it out for a walk. Zhang Zizai sat in the position of Shen Qingyu before. Now it was Jin Yuxuan and Shen Qingyu's turn to look at him. Recently, he has been practicing the Taixu universe soul refining technique. His soul realm is still improving. With enough spirit stones, his ability to draw speeding up talismans is also improving. If he does not fight, he can draw 2 or 3 more a day. He started immediately. When he was holding the pen, Shen Qingyu said, isn't this how you hold the pen? Zhang Zizai was stunned. No one taught him how to hold the pen, but he was used to it, so he said, it's okay, it's alright. If you hold the pen in the wrong posture, you can't draw the talisman well. Shen Qingyu couldn't help but say. Zhang Zizai smiled slightly. Since Xiao Yushan didn't say anything, he continued. In a very short time, he was like painting, and he finished it in 1 go. In just 30 breaths, a speed-up talisman was successful. Successful in 1 go. Xiao Yushan picked up the speed-up talisman and was a little dazed. Shen Qingyu was a little stunned. To be honest, he was only about 2/3 successful in making speed-up talismans now. The key was that he felt that Zhang Zizai's wrong way of holding the pen would not succeed. Do you want another one? When Xiao Yushan was amazed, Zhang Zizai said something amazing again. Come on, Xiao Yushan looked at him with a fiery look in his eyes. 2 in a row, it's too exhausting, Shen Qingyu said. Zhang Zizai started drawing and said, it's okay. I also drew 1 before I came here. It's okay now. It took a little longer this time, but it was smooth and successful. Xiao Yushan held 2 acceleration talismans and stared at Zhang Zizai, can you do it again? Zhang Zizai scratched his head and said, let's try.